43.8% of the time that Mac Jones threw the football, it met its target. Mac Jones did not have a good game. They made Mac Jones look like a rookie, right? He threw 2 interceptions, threw for 145 yards, and had a quarterback rating of 31.4 yards on average. For the team, the Patriots caught the ball 14 times for 145 yards, and this speaks to it, right? Their average was 10.4 yards. So they were definitely catching it a little deep, but it ultimately wasn't enough. And on average, Mac Jones was trying to throw it only 4.5 yards per pass. That's not going to do it if you're trying to go against the NFL's number 1 scoring defense. It's just not going to happen. Now, Damian Harris, he definitely made that a game, right? He rushed the ball 18 times for 103 yards and 3 touchdowns. In total, the team 27, 100 for 149 yards, long of 31, 3 touchdowns, again from Damian Harris. And I'll just say this. I think that the Bills' rushing defense was significantly better this game than that Monday night game, but I wasn't necessarily like, oh yeah, we're good now. Like, the Bills still got caught over pursuing. Damian Harris still gouged them by cutting back. And to be fair, like, the Bills' D-line only sacked Jones once. And I understand the Patriots have a good offensive line, but this game script, which we'll get into the 4th segment here about coaching, was all about put the ball in Mac Jones' hand. There wasn't a lot of sack, wasn't a lot of, defensive line production. And this just sounds bad because I'm just like, 1, I'm hogging the mic, so sorry. And 2, like, I'm complaining about a Bills victory, but again, there's some meat left on the bones, and I know that the Bills could have done more on defense. So I don't know if you feel the same way about me, but how do you feel?
So I'm kind of glad you flushed out your whole point there, because I do feel a little bit differently than you. And not to any extent with the run game. I feel like we know who our defense is in that department, and we can go with the classic, oh, well, Star Lotulelei wasn't in there. Well, I don't really expect Star Lotulelei to be in there anymore. Between injuries, COVID, we didn't have him last year. This week, he had something personal going on. It is what it is. But I've pretty much seen Harrison Phillips fill in that role, and I feel comfortable with Harrison Phillips going forward.
Yeah, he's a starter.
Yeah. So, I mean, at this point, I don't think our defense is ever going to be great at stopping the run. And I think we're actually seeing this kind of trend popping up in the NFL where these defenses for the past 5-10 years have just been evolving with this pass-happy NFL that we've seen. We've seen the Patriots doing it. We've seen the Colts doing it, where they win a game where Carson Wentz completes 5 passes or whatever the case is, and it just seems like kind of these defenses that have been built to stop the pass for so long are like, okay, well, now we're going to buck the trend and we're going to run it 40 times and see if you can stop that too. So I don't think that that's really an uncommon problem that you'd see with the Bills. I think that would happen with a lot of teams. But what I will say is, when it comes time to pass and the game script being, let's make Mac Jones beat us through the air. Yes, only 1 sack, but I do think our defensive line did generate some pressure. I'm thinking just, particularly really early in the game with Ed Oliver just busting up the middle and kind of just Mac Jones isn't a quarterback that's going to take a lot of sacks. He's the type to get rid of the ball really quickly. So I think the pressure being generated was kind of enough to make him have to go through his reads faster, and that was where we saw the effect from the front four. Where I really want to heap on some praise for this defense is, what did we land at? 43.75 completion percentage, 150 yards, something like that. And let's not forget that this is a defense that doesn't have Trey White, and you have Dane Jackson out there, Levi Wallace, and for what it's worth, yeah, the defense and the scheme and all that, it's never been friendly to young and rookie quarterbacks, but they really did their thing on the back end to really play complement with the front seven there. So hats off to them.
Right. Yeah, and I got to shout out Ed Oliver because I think he had a real good game. Four tackles, 3 solo. He had the 1 sack of the game. He had a tackle for loss, and let's see, 2 QB hits. 2 QB hits. I think QB hits are pretty effective. They're probably just as effective as sacks, in my opinion, for the fact that it gets into the quarterback's head mentally. And it's hard to draw parallels from that to, Mac Jones's passing percentage, but I do think that there was a fair amount of pressure in this game. I guess where I'm coming from is that I want more. It's there. It's there for the taking. The Bills are doing enough to get this W, but I want more, and I know that they can do it. So I guess I'm being a little stingy, especially here after Christmas. You got me a Bills victory, but I know it could have been better. Well, maybe next year I'll get a lump of coal, whatever.
To be fair on your point there, with the investments that have been made again across the defensive line, I've wanted more pretty much every game except for the first Miami game where we knocked Tua out and we were after Brissett all day.
And we were like, oh my God.
Pretty much every game outside of that, I was like, yeah, I could use more from the defensive line this year. I mean, you're talking 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, young guys.
One who's a healthy scratch from week to week.
Yeah, so I don't blame you there. I could always use more out of the defensive line.